Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me, I do appreciate it. Today we're going to do some trajectory validation. This is for long range shooting, for people that want to come out hunting, they want to shoot varmints or game at long range and want to do it ethically. Of course, I'm not an expert, but this is what's been working for me. Obviously, hopefully I've got a wind muff on top of this camera. The wind is coming from my left to right and it's gusting at about 15 kilometers an hour. So we're going to be shooting in real world conditions. And one thing you definitely don't want to underestimate is the wind when shooting, especially lighter pills at longer distance. So first off, we're going to go through some of the tools you're going to need. First off, I think very important is a good pair of binoculars. Good pair of binoculars going to last you for 20 years. Mine are Nikon Monarch 7s, which rival some of the more expensive brands. I'm really impressed with those. And I know they've gone up against the Vortex Viper HDs. Some of the reviews, these have come out on top. Buy a good brand, something that's going to last you for the next 20 years. Buy once, cry once. Secondly, another thing you're going to need is a rangefinder, which is really important. I've got this Bushnell Trophy Extreme, which is good up to about 500 meters. I do have a Leica 1600F on order, which is coming in the next couple of weeks because, you know, for a build for the future, when I want to get a bigger caliber to shoot further, obviously I need something that's going to get out to those longer distance, that's a bit more of a precision instrument. But certainly get an accurate rangefinder. That is really important, because if you're missing targets, I've noticed sometimes it's because the rangefinder has not given you the correct distance. Because I've shot animals before under the same conditions, for an example, and then the next shot on the same warren, it misses quite considerably and the wind was less. So I've put it down to sometimes the rabbits can be just a little bit further, sometimes they can be a little bit closer, and at those longer ranges, that can be the difference between, you know, hitting the target and not hitting the target. Finally, what we're going to talk about too is, and I'm going to put it on the screen here in a minute, we'll talk about the wind meter first. This is a weather flow wind meter. Obviously you point it into the wind, which way the wind's coming, and it gives you the average wind speed. It also gives you wind speed as it goes up and down, the highest wind speed, the lowest wind speed during your recording, but it also gives you your average wind speed, which is very important because when you're shooting long range, wind makes a huge difference, especially in real world conditions like this, which the wind, it's about 15 kilometers an hour and coming from my left to right, so it is going to be difficult to hit this gong. The next one you're going to want to look at is some form of ballistics application. So on this one, I'm going to put on the screen right now, this one is Strelok Pro. Strelok is a ballistics application. It is the Pro version. It is worth about $15. So now from my shooting position, which is right in front of me here, I'm looking at 431 meters. Now I can barely, and I'll show you here now, I can barely even see the gong, 8-inch gong at 431 meters, because I did paint it blue because that's the only spray paint that I had. So at 431 meters with the wind speed at approximately 15 kilometers per hour, it's giving us a calculation of elevation of 2 mils there in the green, 2 mils of elevation and 0.9 mils left, which again is important because if you're not adjusting for your wind, you're not going to hit targets. And shooting in these real world conditions is going to make the difference when you actually go out in the field. It's okay to shoot in no wind, but if there is wind, which majority of the time if you're outside there's going to be wind, you need to be able to shoot in wind and getting better at it and coming out and testing out those calls and testing out your reads on your ballistic and confirming to make sure it's correct. Here on the ground, guys, I'm shooting a 243, a Tikka varmint with 70 grain Sierra Blitz Kings. I'm running a Bushnell DMR2 Milradian scope. And I've also got it in a GRS Berserk stock. I'm also running an APA little bastard muzzle brake on the front of it because I want to be able to spot my shots. That's most important. Last year when I was running the 85 grain Sierra hollow point boat tails, I would just lose that sight picture for just a few seconds, and sometimes I'd have to actually go back to the DSLR footage to be able to see where I hit. Now I'm easily able to spot my hits and make adjustments on the fly straight away from the shooting position without getting up and looking at the camera. So as you can see here, guys, 431 meters, it's 2 mils of elevation, 0.9 mils left. So what we're going to do, we're going to go onto the shooting position, we're going to put those calculations into the scope, and then we're going to start shooting at that 431 meters. Now, of course, I like to long range shoot varmints. This is the purpose of this rifle. I'm probably good to about 500 meters. Any more than that, And obviously you need to start looking at the ballistics of your specific round. You want to make sure you're always humane, and always practicing is always a good thing. We're shooting in this pretty much dried up channel, right up into the reeds up there, which you can see on an 8-inch gong. So we're going to see how many hits we can make based on this collaboration, and making sure that everything is correct, and making sure we've put it in correctly, and seeing what happens as an end result. So let's get onto the shooting station. All right guys, we're now in the rifle. So now it's time to make the business count. So what I like to do actually is just before shooting, just redo that wind again, just to make sure you've got everything correct. Because if you're shooting game, you're only going to get one chance at it. So you want to make sure just before you shoot, it's absolutely what it says it's going to be. So I'm getting gusts of wind anywhere from 10 to 15 kilometers an hour. So I understand these are real world conditions, and this is going to make it quite difficult. It's saying 0.7 mils left and 2 mils of elevation. So what we're going to do is we're going to punch that into the scope. All right, 2 mils of elevation, and then we're going to go left. We're going to go 0.7 mils. So there we go, 0.7 mils, and lock it in. So now, based on if the conditions are correct, we should hit this gong at 431 meters. If we don't, we can then come back, discuss potentially what went wrong, what went right, and obviously make sure we get the adjustments correct, and making sure you get that laser rangefinder. And this is the importance of getting a really good laser rangefinder. The cheaper ones just aren't accurate. You will chase your tail trying to find out why you're missing all the time, and a lot of the time it's because you've misranged the target, or you just don't have a good rangefinder. So it's important to spend as much as you can getting a decent rangefinder, because it will frustrate you no end if you don't. So we're going to take the shot now, and we'll see how we go on this 8-inch gong at 431 meters. So we just been shooting the gong at 430 plus meters. The wind is absolutely crazy. On the ground, I've got my bamboo stick with my straw on there, and the wind is just swirling, and it's actually gotten worse now. It's probably about 17 to 18 kilometers per hour. I'm not sure if my dead cat on top is actually getting the wind, but it is supposed to cut that wind noise out. But the wind is coming just across this paddock here, right in front of our shooting position, which is up the creek. And we're going to go up, we're going to have a look at the gong. Hopefully I'm going to come back with a second video tomorrow, and sort of hopefully the wind is not up. That's what I'm really hoping, because I really want to get an accurate representation of what my rifle is doing without having to combat all these variables of wind. But it certainly is good experience, because wind can absolutely really screw you up. And man, this wind is getting really strong. So let's go up, have a look at the gong. Let's see how we did. We'll spray it and get prepared for tomorrow. All right, guys, we've got some really, really good results here, and I want to discuss a few things, because I think ultimately this is really good. I did take a few shots off camera because the wind was just getting too crazy. So we've got one on the outside, one that skim left, third skim left, and then we've got one over on the right-hand side. But when the wind died down, I had 3 quick shots, and it died down for about 5 minutes, and this is really positive. Look at that group at 430 meters on an 8-inch gong. That is just brilliant. And the good thing I like about that is the vertical plane, perfect. It's in the vertical plane there. Horizontally, it is a bit low, but that's something we can address. But that's why I say it could be just a little bit out with my rangefinder. But that is extremely, extremely positive. Now, if you look here, I've seen where one bullet hit here, one bullet right there, and also if I go just over here, I had one that was low and went right there. put that channel in right there, which is, I think, really good, guys. I think really good. And I did notice when I took those 3 shots off camera, when the wind died down, that is really positive. I mean, that's a fantastic group. I mean, look at those 2 there. 1, 2, literally right on top of each other, and 1 there. I'd probably say that's close to, you know, a 1-inch group at 430 meters. I mean, that's just crazy. 1.3 inches maybe. Couldn't be more than that, but that's absolutely fantastic. So what I'm actually going to do, I think tomorrow, I'm going to spray it with my spray can today, come back tomorrow, and hopefully we'll get a bit more of an accurate representation if the wind dies down. And literally, guys, the wind has totally died down right now. And I probably could be shooting now, but it is getting a bit late. I've got other things to do. Going to go hunt some rabbits. But you know what? It's extremely, extremely positive. And I can't wait to start shooting tomorrow. So let's give it a spray. Get a bit over there so we can address it tomorrow. All right, well, I'm really excited about today's results, guys. I really am, especially that vertical line with that 3-shot group. The wind today was absolutely crazy, and I wouldn't normally shoot in those conditions, but I wanted to see what this round could do in these types of conditions. And obviously these types of conditions are very difficult to shoot in, especially with that wind. It's just, do not underestimate the wind, guys. If I've learnt one thing, do not underestimate the winds, because what I'm going to do is come back. Hopefully the next couple of days it's not going to be anywhere near as windy. And if it is going to be a little bit windy, hopefully it remains consistent. I had fishtailing winds, swirling winds, which totally sucks for shooting. But that 3-shot group on that vertical line definitely is positive, guys. So stay tuned for part 2. I've sprayed the gong. I'm going to come back in a couple of days, have a shoot. Hopefully the results are good. I mean, 430 meters, guys. 430 meters with a 70-grain bullet in treacherous winds. I'm pretty stoked. So anyway, stay tuned for part 2. Thanks for listening and thanks for watching. As usual, I'm Jason. See you next time.